Okay, we're looking at Jared Diamond's book, The World Until Yesterday. It seems like it's going to challenge how we see things, right? Looking at human life, like how it was for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah, absolutely. What's really striking is how Diamond uses his own experiences, especially being in New Guinea. And he draws these stark contrasts between traditional life and, well, Westernized societies like ours. So the mission is to pull out the key ideas, to help you understand not just what it was like back then, but crucially, why it actually matters for us today.
And he starts us off unexpected, an airport. Seems totally normal to us, but for Diamond, it's like a lens, a way to immediately see these huge differences in how humans have lived, for most of history anyway. So maybe let's set the stage first. How does Diamond actually define these traditional societies he keeps mentioning?
He describes them as small-scale groups, low population density. They're subsisting by hunting, gathering, farming, maybe herding. And the key is they have pretty limited contact with large, westernized, industrial societies.
Okay, and then you contrast that with our world, what he calls Westernized. We're talking huge populations, state governments, complex economies, all that.
Exactly. And that contrast just jumps out at you with that airport scene he describes. Port Moresby, New Guinea. This was 2006.
Right.
He sees people who visually look like folks photographed way back in 1931, but the scene itself, totally different.
How so?
1931, they're scantily clothed, speaking local languages, lean, very wary of strangers. Then 2006, standard international clothes, speaking English, some had beer bellies, and they're just peacefully coexisting with strangers.
It's such a striking comparison, and he lists things we just don't even think about. Metal, writing machines, airplanes, police, government.
Even overweight people, he points out.
Yeah, and just crowds of different people living together and meeting strangers without, immediate fear.
Things that are actually really new in the grand scheme of human history.
So this leads him to ask, are people basically the same everywhere?
And his answer is, no, not in many really basic ways. He says traditional friends might count differently, choose spouses differently, see danger completely differently. But at the same time, there's common ground too. We laugh at the same jokes, share interest in kids, sex, food, sports. It's complicated.
He uses that acronym, WEIRD, right?
Yeah, weird. Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. To make the point that actually most psychology research is based on societies that are kind of outliers, globally speaking.
We're studying the exception, not the rule.
Pretty much. And to analyze this, he uses Elman Services categories: band, tribe, chiefdom, state. It's basically a scale, increasing population, more political centralization, more social layers.
So hunter-gatherer bands are small, egalitarian, no real leaders.
Right. And states are massive with specialized governments, laws, bureaucracy. And Diamond argues these differences aren't biological. They stem from environmental factors like, did you have access to plants and animals you could domesticate? That shaped everything.
So why should we care about all this? What's the point for us?
Looking at these societies can help us appreciate what we have now, or maybe it can make us think. Are there things we've lost? Better ways of living we could learn from?
Okay, let's dig into some specifics then. Conflict resolution. How did that work without, say, police and courts?
In traditional societies without that central state, disputes mostly get handled two ways. Peacefully, usually involving compensation, or violently, through war.
Okay, let's talk compensation first. That New Guinea example, sorry money.
Yeah, sorry money. It's fascinating because it's not about guilt or punishment like in our system.
Right.
It means sorry money. It's about acknowledging a huge loss, expressing grief. And the main goal is fixing the relationship between the people involved.
He tells that story about Billy's death.
Right. And the payment was basically worthless, rubbish food. But it was given out of shared sorrow to restore harmony.
It's so different.
Totally. And then there's the GOTUS, who actually paid compensation to the people who attacked them just to end the cycle of fear.
Oh, compared to our system.
Our state justice is mostly impersonal. It's about finding right or wrong based on laws, often between strangers. And our system has flaws too. Lack of emotional closure maybe favors the rich. And sometimes people feel it feels so badly they take things into their own hands, like that Ellie Nessler case. It's a stark contrast.
Okay, so that's the peaceful side. What about the violent side? Warfare.
Diamond uses Stephen LeBlanc's definition. Pretty broad. Recurrent violence between groups belonging to rival political units, sanctioned by the units, resulting in significant impacts.
And the Danny War in New Guinea fits this.
Perfectly. It was this chronic state of battles and raids that anthropologists actually observed over time.
And the death rates. You mentioned they were high.
Shockingly high. As a proportion of the population, average war death rates in traditional societies were maybe 10 times higher than the average for modern states.
Wait, even with modern weapons like world wars, atomic bombs?
Even then, the relative death toll was often higher in traditional warfare. Combatants were routinely killed. Massacres weren't uncommon.
That's hard to grasp. And he mentioned warriors often knew their enemies.
Yeah, because alliances shifted, people intermarried. So you might be fighting someone you even were relatives sometimes.
Yeah.
Very different from modern anonymous warfare.
He shared that quote from the Ayana men after warfare stopped.
Oh yeah, that's powerful. They said life was better because a man could now eat without looking over his shoulder.
And could leave his house in the morning to urinate without fear of being shot.
It just hits you. Peace isn't the default state. It's something achieved. A gift, almost.
So why did they fight? Just for land?
Resources, sure. Land, women, pigs sometimes.
Yeah.
But also social reasons, like keeping troublesome neighbors at a distance, or just building a reputation for being fierce. And a huge driver, Diamond emphasizes, was revenge. That thirst for revenge could fuel conflicts for generations.
Okay, let's shift gears. How about raising kids and treating elders? Two really fundamental things.
Definitely. And Diamond shows us some child-rearing practices that they can seem startling to us.
Like infanticide?
Yeah, that's one. It could happen if a baby was born with severe deformities, or if it was twins, or sometimes simply if food was too scarce. Especially for nomadic hunter-gatherers, a mother carrying one child and nursing another, it might be impossible.
Right. And weaning happened much later, too.
Often around 3 or 4 years old, again, partly linked to needing kids to be able to walk long distances when the group moved.
But then there are other practices, like how they carry babies.
Right. Often vertically, facing forward, constant contact, seeing the same things as the mother or carrier. Diamond suggests this might help develop motor skills faster, like in young infants.
And sleeping in the same bed.
Very common. For years, often. Totally different from our separate nurseries idea.
You also mentioned alloparents.
Yes. This is crucial. Alloparents are other caregivers. Fathers, grandparents, aunts, uncles, older siblings. In many traditional societies, like the Piraha in Brazil, raising a child is seen as the whole village's responsibility.
So the child has this whole network.
Exactly. More food, more protection, more stimulation. And the results seem to be kids who are really emotionally secure, confident, curious, autonomous. There's research even in the U.S. showing benefits when kids have strong allo-parenting support.
What about discipline? Was it harsh?
Often, surprisingly not. Many hunter-gatherer groups, again like the Piraha, rarely use physical punishment. They talk to kids respectfully. Diamond tells that story about Daniel Everett, the linguist. A Piraha child was teasing him, maybe throwing things, and Everett instinctively went to discipline him physically.
And
They were horrified. Hitting a child was just unthinkably barbaric to them. Really makes you rethink things.
Okay, so that's kids. What about the elderly? You said there was a huge range.
A massive range. Yeah. From being highly honored, controlling property, maybe even having multiple younger wives.
To being abandoned or even killed.
Yes. Stark extremes.
Why? What determined how elders were treated?
It often seemed to boil down to perceived usefulness. Can they still contribute food? Can they babysit? That's the grandmother hypothesis.
Yeah.
Older women helping raise grandchildren enhances survival. Or, critically, do they hold valuable knowledge? In non-literate societies, elders are the libraries, the encyclopedias of survival skills, history, everything.
So how does that compare to us now?
We live longer, we have better healthcare, more leisure time in old age. But often, elders experience significant social isolation.
And we see them as less useful.
Perhaps. Because literacy means knowledge isn't solely in their heads, and technology changes so fast their skills might seem outdated. Though Diamond points out, elders still hold economic power through property rights, which just echoes that traditional leverage, just in a different form.
Let's talk about danger. You said traditional life was much more dangerous.
Far more. And this leads to what Diamond calls constructive paranoia, something he learned from New Guineans.
Constructive paranoia, what does that mean?
It's not being irrationally scared. It's consciously thinking about small risks, things that seem low probability. But if they happen repeatedly over a lifetime, they could eventually kill or injure you if you ignore them. It's this constant awareness that anything could be a sign, everything happens for a reason you need to figure out.
He shared some personal stories about this, right?
Yeah, vivid ones. Waking up, seeing a figure near his tent, surviving a boat capsize because his friend insisted on checking the boat properly beforehand.
And that stick in the ground.
Right, just a stick. But his experience guide, Guinea, instantly knew it meant someone had been there recently in an area they thought was empty. That kind of ingrained observation skill.
And this constant vigilance connects to how talkative they are.
Diamond thinks so. Without TV, internet, passive entertainment, conversation is entertainment. But it's also vital for survival. Discussing everything in minute detail, what happened, what might happen, it's how you process risk and prepare.
So what were the biggest dangers? Lions and tigers and bears?
Surprisingly, no. Animal attacks are usually third on the list.
Really? What's higher?
Disease is number 1. And human violence is number 2 in many societies. After that come environmental hazards, but maybe not the ones we first think of. Falling trees, fires in huts, getting lost. And simple things like insect bites or scratches turning into serious, potentially fatal infections. Much more common than lion attacks.
And violence we already touched on, the Kung homicide rate, for instance.
Yeah, 22 homicides in 49 years for a small group. Mostly feuds, arguments, adultery. Generally, the arrival of state control tends to decrease that person-to-person violence, even if it introduces other forms of conflict.
Okay, and disease. You said number 1 killer. What kind of diseases?
Mostly chronic ones they lived with, like leprosy or yaws. Things transmitted slowly. The real devastation came from crowd diseases, measles, flu, smallpox. These need large, dense populations to keep circulating. So when outsiders brought them to small, isolated traditional groups,
they had no immunity.
None. It was catastrophic. Wiped out huge percentages of populations.
Another constant threat was starvation.
Absolutely. Food supplies were unpredictable. So they developed all sorts of coping strategies, sharing resources widely within the group, moving camps frequently to find food, even storing food reserves in their own bodies by deliberately fattening up when food was plentiful.
And that connects to that farming question, right? Why Andean farmers scattered their fields.
Exactly. It seems inefficient to have little plots all over the place, different altitudes, different soil.
But it's constructive paranoia again.
Precisely. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. By diversifying, they ensured they'd get something every year, even if one area failed due to frost or drought. It lowers the average yield, maybe, but it massively increases the chance of survival. That's the priority.
So this all leads to modern health. We've swapped those dangers for others.
We have. We've largely conquered infectious diseases and starvation. But we've got a new set. Diseases of civilization, NCDs, non-communicable diseases, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, certain cancers.
And these are rare in traditional societies.
Very rare. But they appear really quickly when people adopt Western diets and lifestyles. This is hugely relevant for us.
Like salt.
Exactly. Salt was scarce and valuable traditionally. We evolved ways to hang on to it. Now it's everywhere in processed food. Way more than we need.
And that contributes to high blood pressure.
Right, yeah. Thrifty kidney gene, great for conserving salt back then, is a liability now.
And diabetes, type 2 specifically.
Strongly linked to our modern life. Sedentary, lots of calories readily available. The thrifty gene hypothesis again. Genes that helped us store fat efficiently to survive famine now make us prone to diabetes when food is constantly abundant.
Which explains those incredibly high rates in groups like the Pima Indians or Norwans after they adopted Western diets.
Yes, world record rates. Interestingly, Europeans seem to have lower prevalence, maybe due to longer exposure to agriculture and associated diets. But the point is, these diseases aren't inevitable destiny. They're largely results of our lifestyle. We created them, so maybe we can change them.
Okay, let's move to belief systems. Religion. Diamond says pretty much all societies have something like it.
Yeah, virtually all. He explores where it might have come from, possibly as a kind of side effect of our brains always looking for causes, for explanations. And initially, there probably wasn't a sharp line between natural and supernatural causes. Those cave paintings at Lascaux might hint at very ancient beliefs.
But it's more than just explaining things, right?
Oh, definitely. It serves other functions, reducing anxiety. Think about those Trobriand Islanders doing magic before dangerous open-sea fishing trips, but not for safe lagoon fishing.
Because the open sea was unpredictable, uncontrollable.
Exactly. Ritual gives a sense of control, even if it's illusory. And maybe most importantly for social groups, religion provides comfort. Comfort for pain, suffering, and especially the fear of death.
The idea of an afterlife. Rewards and punishments.
That becomes much more prominent as societies get larger and more complex. It helps bind people together with shared beliefs and morals.
But then there's the dark side, as Diamond puts it.
Right. In more complex societies, like chiefdoms and states, religion often gets, co-opted. Used to encourage political obedience, standardize how things are organized, justify hierarchies.
And justify violence.
Yes. even justify wars against people with different beliefs. He points to examples in the Old Testament, calls to violence against heathens.
Why would religions promote costly things like complex rituals or even violence?
Evolutionary biologist David Sloan Wilson has argued that a religion's fitness, how successful it is in gaining followers, is relative. Historically, one way groups increased their numbers was by, frankly, killing or forcibly converting other groups. And those costly behaviors like strict rules or rituals, they can act as badges of commitment. They show who's really dedicated to the group. Think of successful committed groups like the Hutterites versus many failed secular communes. That shared belief and commitment is powerful.
Okay, from religion to language, another huge topic. Diamond was amazed by New Guinea's linguistic diversity.
Utterly astonished. Hundreds of different languages, often mutually unintelligible, packed into a small area. Compare that to large nations where almost everyone speaks the same language.
So what's the difference between a language and a dialect? Is it clear-cut?
Often not. It can be kind of arbitrary. Sometimes they use a percentage of mutual intelligibility, like 70%, but it's fuzzy. What influences diversity is complex. Ecology plays a role. Richer environments can support more distinct groups, maybe more languages.
And social factors.
Big time. States tend to push towards one language steamrollers, he calls them. Think about the Roman Empire spreading Latin. New Guinea's rugged mountains help protect its diversity by keeping groups isolated.
What really struck me was traditional multilingualism. It's normal.
Absolutely routine in many small-scale societies. Because communities are small, you inevitably have lots of contact with neighbors for trade, marriage, alliances, so you learn their languages.
He said in New Guinea, knowing 5 or more languages isn't unusual.
That's right, commonplace.
And this has benefits beyond just talking to people, cognitive benefits.
Yeah, this is fascinating. Research shows bilingual kids tend to develop better executive function.
Executive function.
It's the brain's management system. Helps you focus, ignore distractions, switch between tasks efficiently.
And it might even delay Alzheimer's.
Studies suggest bilingualism is associated with a delay in the onset of Alzheimer's symptoms by maybe 4 or 5 years. That's significant.
Wow. So despite these benefits, languages are disappearing.
At an alarming rate. Globalization, national governments promoting dominant languages, sometimes actively suppressing minority ones through assimilation policies.
Some argue fewer languages would be better, unite humanity.
Diamond pushes back on that. He points out, sadly, that sharing a language doesn't stop people from killing each other. He cites Rwanda, Cambodia. Horrific violence between people speaking the same language.
So is there value in diversity itself?
He argues strongly, yes. Languages aren't just ways to talk. They're like encyclopedias. They encode unique knowledge about the local environment. Plants, animals, ethnobiology. They contain unique oral literatures, histories, ways of thinking. Plus, evidence suggests that native minorities who keep their languages and cultures often do better economically and socially. It challenges that whole assimilation idea.
Okay, so we've covered a huge amount, this deep dive into the world until yesterday. It's really been a journey, hasn't it? Contrasting traditional life with ours.
It really has. And what becomes clear, I think, is that it's not a simple good versus bad picture. Our westernized world gives us amazing things, longer lives, more safety, abundant food, incredible technology. But maybe it comes with costs, time pressure, stress, those diseases of civilization we talked about, maybe social isolation.
And traditional societies facing constant hardship and danger.
They cultivated other things, intense social bonds, that collective child rearing leading to emotional security, that constructive paranoia, a real pragmatic vigilance.
So the book isn't saying, let's go back.
Not at all. It's not about romanticizing the past or ditching modern life. It's about learning from this huge database of human natural experiments in living.
So we can appreciate what we have.
Yes, and identify what we might have lost. And maybe, just maybe, see if there are aspects of traditional life we could selectively adopt to improve our lives.
Like how we raise kids or care for elders.
Or our diets, our relationship with risk, even encouraging language learning.
So the question for you, the listener, is, what does this all mean for you?
Yeah, thinking about your own life. Could you encourage bilingualism in your family, knowing the cognitive benefits? Could adopting a bit of that constructive paranoia, thinking ahead about risks, be useful? Or maybe focusing more on relationships, like in traditional dispute resolution, instead of just abstract right and wrong.
Yeah.
Perhaps the deepest takeaway is that wisdom isn't about choosing one world. It's about thoughtfully blending the best parts of both.
That's a powerful idea to end on. Makes you think. What aspects of the world until yesterday might you want to bring thoughtfully into your own world of tomorrow?